I'm Emily.
I'm Justine.
I'm Trinity.
I'm Allison.
I'm Houston.
I'm Spencer.
And I'm Lindsay. And this is our hero's journey. Thank you.
So, you want to tell me what happened? It all started the day we decided to run away. We were about 2 miles out of town. I remember Veronica getting more nervous the further we drove. She said,
Should we just turn back now?
but we were already in too deep, so I said to her, it's too late. Veronica started to cry, so I told her to pull over. Just as she had almost collected herself, we saw headlights approaching us from behind. We quickly backed up the car and attempted to pull onto the road, but Veronica was taking too long, so I grabbed the wheel from her. Just as we were about to veer back onto the road, we saw a face, and that's when we felt a slight impact. It was as if time had stopped. That's when we realized we had to make a decision quickly. Drive away or call for help. The next thing I knew, we were long gone. The next morning, I woke up in the car, and Veronica was nowhere to be found. I didn't think much of it based on her previous behavior. I was alone in an unknown town. I walked around to see if I could find something to eat, and that's when I saw it. A newspaper stand with the headline, Officer Killed by Stolen Car. There was a picture of Veronica's car fleeing the scene.
The next thing I knew, I was sitting silently in the back of a courtroom listening to Veronica be accused of manslaughter. The longer I sat, the more I got this awful feeling in my stomach. I had never had that happen to me before. I was frightened by this, and that's when I heard the words that changed everything.
Sentenced to death.
After that was said, I didn't hear anything else. I realized that this was all my fault. I should have said something, but instead I just ran out. I told myself over and over that it was just too late.
It was all anyone could talk about, the murder, the trial, what really happened. The halls at school were constantly filled with whispers. To everyone else, this was the most excitement thing that's ever happened here. But to me, everything felt empty, including myself. I couldn't stop thinking about Veronica, and I didn't understand why. I have never cared about anyone else my whole entire life.
As I walked through the halls, I could feel eyes staring accusingly at me. They almost seemed to be asking me questions like, were you with her? How are you handling this? Did you know that she was crazy? She was your best friend. You must have known something. Was it really her fault? I felt trapped, even though people were purposely avoiding me.
The longer I stayed away from Veronica, the more I felt I had to see her. I finally got up the nerve to go and speak to her. As I waited for her, I felt more and more sick. I almost got up and left, but all of a sudden, there she was, and I suddenly had so many things to say to her. When she picked up the phone, the only thing she said was,
Why?
I realized that I didn't know why. I couldn't answer. After a few moments of silence, she got up and walked away.
As I approached my car, I couldn't help but realize that my freedom was steps away, whereas Veronica's may never come. I felt as if there was no way I could fix this. The only thing that could think was, what have I done? That was when I knew that I couldn't carry on pretending anymore.
That night, I tried to tell someone, and every time I tried, I choked. No matter what I told myself, I just couldn't do it. I had so much that I wanted to say, but I didn't have any way to say it. I just felt helpless and confused.
The next day, I knew that I wouldn't be able to forgive myself. If I didn't confess, as I approached the police station, I felt less and less sick. I knew that I was doing the right thing.
Haley, and this is our hero's journey.
Thank you.
One day, in a land far, far away, a man came to his home that he and his sister shared. His name was Albus, and his sister Ariel was feeding their pet cat, Mr. Mittens. Albus started helping Ariel cook dinner, but little did he know that their pet cat was evil. As they were preparing dinner while Albus's back was turned, Mr. Mittens snuck behind Ariel and dragged her through the door. As Mr. Mittens opened the door, it creaked, alerting Albus to what was going on. Mr. Mittens scampered out the door with Ariel in tow. As Albus ran after them, he realized they were gone already. He assured himself that they'd be happier without his sister. I mean, she is pretty annoying. Grandpa walked in and asked Albus where his sister was.
Creak.
Albus said that Mr. Mittens probably took her somewhere. Grandpa shook his head worried and tells him that Mr. Mittens is an evil cat king who must be stopped. Albus reasoned that Ariel was fine because she loves cats. Grandpa smacked him with his cane, telling him to save his sister. He gives him a magic sword. As Albus accepts the sword, he starts out on his journey to save his sister from their evil pet cat.
Creak.
He hears noises in the woods and decides to investigate while hiding behind a tree. He sees two witches cooking a rabbit in a large cauldron. The rabbit is panicking and begging them not to eat it. The witches laugh and continue adding things into the soup. Albus decides to run out and scare away the witches with his new magic. He pulls the rabbit out of the cauldron. The rabbit thanks him and decides to follow him to the Cat King's castle to defeat Mr. Mittens.
Albus kicks down to the door of the castle and storms into it. Ariel yells for him to save her. Albus moves to attack Mr. Mittens, but was stopped by the guards.
Mr. Mittens laughed evilly and ordered that both of them be taken to the dungeon to rot.
They were shackled to the walls, and Albus had given up hope of ever saving his sister. His bunny sidekick tried to cheer him up, but it was no use. The dungeon master was sharpening knives, getting ready to torture them. All of a sudden, Grandpa appeared. He punched down the dungeon master. Then he unshackled Albus and the bunny. But the dungeon master is not dead, and so he sneaks up behind Grandpa and stabs him in the back. Albus, Grandpa, and the bunny flee the castle.
Albus carries Grandpa outside the castle and lays him down on the grass.
Grandpa pulls out a bag from his pocket and with his last breath says, "It's dangerous to go alone. Take this," and dies.
Albus kicks down the castle door yet again. The bunny scares away the two guards. He throws the secret weapon that his grandfather gave him, catnip, and the Cat King falls to the ground, unable to battle. Albus picks up the sister, and they walk out of the castle. He tells her that they should get a pet dog, because cats are evil.
Ruff.
The end.
My name is Carly Hatch.
My name is Leah Olson.
I'm Isaac.
And I'm Harrison Alvin.
I'm Joe Larimar.
I'm Jonathan Rivers.
I'm Ryan.
And this is our hero's story. Thank you. Hi, I'm Jocelyn. Or at least I was Jocelyn. I'm not sure about that now. This is my story, although I'm not sure anyone will ever actually hear it. Whatever. I'll start from the beginning, back when my son and I were still alive. That's us. His name was Bryce. He was perfect, always has been. It's a shame what happened. Life was good, great even. I never saw it coming until it was already happening. This is the story of our death and the journey that came with it.
I didn't understand it at first. No tunnel of light, no out-of-body experience. It just happened. The blink of an eye, and I was in white nothingness, with nothing but a set of gates and a strange man in sight. Then it dawned on me. I wasn't alive. Looking around at the sad surroundings, I noticed something missing.
Where's Bryce?
This sad shake of the head crushed me, with the realization that he wasn't coming.
Where is he?
A rush of panic, and then I was begging, sobbing at this quiet, stern stranger. His voice was a whisper in my mind, telling me my son was stuck in the in-between. I could move on and leave him behind, or go to find him, risking my own soul to be trapped there.
I was baffled. Risk my own soul, my afterlife? But Bryce, there was no way I would let him suffer there trapped. Sure, I was afraid, a sick feeling dwelling in my stomach. I didn't want to go. It was too risky, dangerous. But that was why I had to save him. No child deserves that, especially mine. But what if I failed?
A man, presumably an angel, watched me with interest, like he could read the thoughts cartwheeling through my mind. With a fierce smile, he flipped through his leather-bound book, pronouncing one page. His voice in my head recognized it as a map leading through purgatory, leading to where my son should be. He warned me the dangers, the dense forest, the dark and endless souls in the in-between. Taking the map, starting in disbelief, my eyes devoured the page. This is it, my opportunity. I could save him. I would.
With a nod in my angel's direction, I turned to the vast nothing beyond me, alerting into a dark forest. At the foot of the path, sprawled beside a rock, a figure lay with feet propped up upon a small lantern, his eyes drilled into mine. A fine brow arched in question. Without a word, she stood, picked up the lantern, and slipped her hand into mine. She was no threat from what I could tell, just another lost soul. Stepping forward together, we slipped into the eerie forest.
As we walked, it was obvious we were not alone. My skin crawled, the feeling of watching eyes tickling the hairs of my neck. A fleeing shape seen in the corner of my eye disappeared with a turn of the head. Whispers, like the song of silence, called to me by name, pulling at me. The knowing eyes of my quiet companion forewarned me. I fixed my gaze on the lantern held out before us, stressing to ignore the faint buzz.
As we walked, a clearing was reached, although it was soaked in despair as the forest itself. A small hunched body sat in the far end, stirring slightly with our appearance.
Hello?
I said, bounding forward to place a hand on the spirit. He looked up. My heart stuttered. Bryce. He looked up at me, arms mournful, and whispered.
Go.
My face twisted in confusion. until a figure appeared beside the child, dragging him away. My companion, having been forgotten, nodded at me sadly, ran to launch herself to the gate, forcing him to lose his hold. Seizing the moment, I grabbed for his hand, pulling him beside me. We darted into the black woods. Stumbling blindly through the black, we sprinted, the beckoning voices lost to the beat of steps. We ran for what felt like hours until I tripped on the branch and sprawled on the ground.
But when my eyes opened once again, my surroundings were white. I lay before those same gates, but this time, Bryce's face hovered above mine, a look of worry on his face. Sighing, I climbed to my feet, took his hand in mine, and moved forward toward the gates, opening them and stepping through. Thank you.
Thank you.